What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Real Talk.
With real siblings. Man, it feels good to do that again. It's been a minute.
Welcome back. We are here to talk all things.
Is it me? Sequester! We're doing it. So, we've been talking about Big Brother. Big Brother's out of season. It's coming back later next summer. So now we're talking about Sequester. It's run by one of the former Big Brother contestants, actually, Audrey Middleton. I'm bad with names. And it's a similar show. It's a strategic reality competition show, like Survivor, like Big Brother, like Among Us, kind of. Who's into that? Get at us. We love it. So let's get to it.
Yeah, let's talk about it. So it's an online show. The first episode was this last Sunday. Every episode is every Sunday, and we are going to walk you through the entire game. Today, we're going to talk about our favorite players and what happened in this first episode. So there's 13 players. We met them in batches of like 4 to 5. There's 3 different groups that came in. So the first group that walks into this house is Rachel, Muna, Brent, and Brendan. What did you think about these people?
It was my first, this was the first group of people I'd ever seen on this show. So I've never watched the show before, so I'm completely new to it. So it was interesting just to see the format and how things were. Brent was visually, obviously, an outsider a bit, right? Like you have Muna, who's like young and hip and stylish and is like a spoken word poet. Then you have Brent, who's like gray-haired podcaster, kind of like not nerdy or awkward, but just kind of like a little awkward guy. Like, I don't know. It was just such a juxtaposition. He's the oldest house guest. He's in his 40s, I think, or maybe later than that. And so it was cool to see that range of person in the house. And obviously Brent was recognizable. But other than that, I was just like, cool, here we go. Let's get started.
Yeah, and I'll say out of that group, those are the people who stood out to me too. And I think Muna's going to be one of my favorite players. Like, she just seems so like outgoing, but also intuitive and just thoughtful. And I don't know, I'm really excited to see what she does this whole season. So that's the first group. The second group that comes in, we see Sharon, familiar face, Jacob, Josh, and Natalie. What do you think about them?
So I forgot Natalie already. I don't know who she is. I've already forgotten her. Jacob stood out. He seemed cool. Josh stood out later in the episode. I didn't necessarily key in on him at first, but we'll talk about him later. And Shireen stood out to me as the obvious person to watch. Her resume is wild. She's a former Survivor contestant, used to work for, I think, Google, one of the early Google employees, worked for Yahoo. Just now a poker player. She's sharp. She came off as a boss. And I'm really excited to see how she does. I feel like that type of person can either go very far or be like an immediate person you need to get out ASAP. And so far, it seems like she's knowing how to handle the people in the house.
Yeah, I think she can go far. She's also like, I think you said like a poker player, like a professional poker player. She just decided to pick that up. And like with that, she kind of immediately reminded me of Vanessa from Big Brother. But as you see her through the episode, you realize she's way more emotionally stable. Way more just like, has a big heart and actually is a very genuine person. So if she has that same skill set of obviously being very like cunning and innovative and adaptable and all the things that you need to be successful in like the tech world and Survivor, and she is like a really good and nice person, I don't know. I think she might be in my final 2. I don't want to speak too soon.
All right. No, we'll get to that, but I feel you. I feel you on that.
Okay, so the third group that comes in, we see Jay West, Billy CEO, I think that's how she said her name, Billy CEO. She was like, I'm a rapper, of course. And I was like, oh, okay.
You're not a CEO?
Yeah. Katie and Spencer.
Yeah, I was like, why is your name Billy CEO? Whatever, it's a rap name, I get it. But I was like, if my name is, Moses Policeman, I should probably be a cop. Katie immediately stuck out to me as like a little bit anxious, like anxiety prone. Like she just seemed already twitchy and nervous and like, hi everyone. I was like, yo, Katie, you gotta chill. Like she was coming on real. It didn't seem like it was rubbing anybody the wrong way. She wasn't like in any way abrasive, but she was just coming on real strong. Then there's Jay West, who, my initial thought of him was like, like he seemed more bark than bite. And we'll talk about that more because he is. What about your thoughts, though?
For sure. He's a trash talker for sure. Natalie, not Natalie. Katie, the other person I can kind of forget. Katie is, to me, she comes across as like a very determined gamer. Like she's played the Sequester Mini before, which is like the online version, like where people only play online versus like gathering in this house. And I think she's either won or gotten like really far in those. And she certainly comes across as like ready to game, but I feel like she's lacking that social game aspects. Because like as we'll see throughout the episode, she doesn't really, it doesn't look like she's interested in forming that like bond, that personal bond with people that is going to help her get far. She just wants to play the game and crush it. But I think as we know in these games, you can't just rely on that. So
you can't. Yeah.
So the next group, I missed someone in that group. Marcelo. Marcelo was in that group.
Oh yeah. He came off as pretty cool to me. Like he's played the game before, right? Sequester Mini. Yeah. Yeah, so he seemed pretty savvy. He seemed like he knew what he wanted to achieve. He did seem like he was going to play a little hard out the gate, and I know, at least with Big Brother, that tends to not work well. I don't know the Sequester game as well. That might be how you have to play. I don't know. But, yeah, I was like, okay, we'll see if he makes some waves.
Yeah. So that's the group. That's all 13 of them. You know, we talked about who kind of stood out to us. And so they come in the house, you know, they're mixing and mingling. And just about everybody has some sort of connection. You know, obviously everybody knows Brent. A lot of people know Sharon since she was on Survivor. And then you have like all these like pockets of people like Jacob and Katie and Spencer and Marcelo, who've all played like the online Sequester mini stuff. So they all kind of know each other. And Luna, of course, also played. So that's kind of cool. Like these aren't just completely perfect, like, you know, strangers. They kind of have some connections and associations.
It's like a mini all-star season. I don't know what the other seasons are like. Maybe it's I think someone had said they played the game like 4 times before. So I was like, maybe it's typical to have returners. It seems that's the case. But I was surprised. I was like, oh, cool. I mean, the first season of Big Brother I watched was I watched season 1. But then season 7, the all-star season, was my next season. So it was kind of, there's something kind of cool about jumping in where everybody seems to know each other and have the game figured out, as opposed to see like the first 5 weeks are just people who are clueless getting booted. And then seeing Josh start looking for the idol, obviously not the idol, the LOS, which seems like an idol basically, right? It's some sort of power that, okay. You want to explain that?
It's an immunity idol, essentially. It's like what you would have in Survivor. So generally in Sequester, in the like the real Sequester show, they have LOSs hidden out throughout the house. And they're like circular cylinder type things that are like flashing, and they hide them like anywhere, like under a pillow and a coffee mug, like they're anywhere in the house. And if you find them, then you can play them whenever, and you're completely safe. So Josh immediately starts running around the house, running upstairs, looking for this LOS, which in theory is not a bad thing because everybody looks for these things. But he made it so obvious that people, you know, people have to know when you watch these shows, the very first day, people are looking for a reason to target someone. Like if you talk too loud, if you break a dish, if you're out looking for idols in America, you know, the LOS, like you're going to be a target. And that's what happens with Josh.
Yeah, that was, as somebody who's uninitiated in the game, it seemed misguided. I was like, that seems like, yeah, exactly. I mean, the first week of anything, it's different because everyone seems to know each other. So I imagine there's other reasons they can figure out to go after, you know, they kind of know gameplay styles and stuff, but I was like, that seems ill-advised, but he went for it.
So the game is pretty much like a game of twists. It's 7 days, like we said. Every single day they have competitions. And then at the end of those like twists or competitions, they essentially vote somebody, not like completely out of the house, but like they vote somebody to send into a battle, right? And then that person who's in the battle gets to pick somebody to battle. And the winner of that battle stays in the house. The loser gets booted to jury. So that's kind of like the format of what we're going to see over the next few weeks.
So then what is the exile? But maybe explain that part. So I understood the initial vote. So should we just reveal that? I mean, in this instance,
let's talk about the game. The exile, that was the twist.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Was that a twist? That's not every season?
No, that's not.
Oh, okay.
That's not every episode. That's just like every day there's a different twist that they have to adapt to.
Oh, okay.
So
Cool. All right.
the first twist they had to like adapt to was exile. I think it was like safety exile or exile versus safety or something like that, where one person is randomly drawn and that person is safe. That person now has to pick somebody to go into exile. The exiled person now has to pick somebody to go to be safe. And then, it kind of alternates, safety picks exile, exile picks safety. And at the end, the people in exile have to vote within themselves, vote one person to essentially go into the battle for elimination.
Okay. And then that person picks somebody else to battle against.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
So that's what we see. So it kind of becomes apparent, obviously very early, Josh is a target. So Josh gets picked into exile at some point. And then, Josh catches wind that Katie threw his name in there. So he starts talking to people and it's like, look, Katie threw me in there. I can give you safety if you promise me you'll throw Katie into exile.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That was a really cool dynamic to watch. Yeah.
It was. And it was really cool. And so he ended up giving it to Sharon.
Mm-hmm.
She throws Katie into exile. One of the things I thought was really interesting during this whole thing was that at some point, there was like an alliance of 6 people that had formed. Brent was in that alliance. Katie was in that alliance. Spencer and the surfer kind of dude, and I think maybe a couple other people.
Jay West and Jacob, I think, were both in it.
I think so. Or Muna, I think.
Yeah.
A couple other people. And Brent makes this promise and tells Katie, because Katie catches wind that like her name is being thrown out there to go into exile. Brent says, "Hey, if you like, if I have to go in there, like I promise you, I will not vote for you. I promise you how to keep you safe." Well, fast forward, Brent goes into exile, and
so we'll go over should we talk about the 6 people in exile?
Yeah, maybe we should do that.
So I don't know if I fully remember. So it was the first person obviously in was Josh. Then he was joined by Katie, Brent, Jay West, and 2 others, Spencer, and who's the last one? Let me check
I don't know. Who do we say? Jay West.
Was it Billy? Or Billy had safety?
No. Jay West, Josh, Katie, Brent, and Rachel. Yeah.
Right. You could not pay me to remember Rachel. I can't do it. I'm trying. Okay, Rachel was there, whose face I don't remember or name. So that was the 6 of them. They voted. The votes fell. The episode later revealed 4-2, and the person voted out was Josh.
Yeah.
Josh then chose to reveal 3 people's votes. Was that a twist or is that typical?
That's a twist.
Oh, okay. So yeah, one of the twists was that if you get voted by the exilees, you get to reveal 3 people's votes to see who they voted and where. He chose to reveal Rachel, Brent, and Jay West. Rachel and Jay West.
Not Rachel, Katie. He wanted to see Katie's vote.
Katie, sorry. Now that you said Rachel, my brain.
Oh, you refuse to remember.
Oh my God. Yeah. Katie, yes. Katie, Brent, and Jay. It's going to take me weeks to get that down. Katie, Brent, and Jay West. Katie and Jay West voted Josh out as predicted, as most people should have. But as you said, Brent decided to do what?
Brent? Well, here's the thing with Brent. So Josh makes a really good play, right? When all the people are in exile, Josh immediately goes to Brent and says, look, if I get voted out, I'm going to battle you. I'm dragging you with me and I'm going to battle you. So you better not vote for me, which was a great, super great, smart ploy or, plan, because number one, Brent has a lot of influence. Brent, everyone kind of knows him. He's like kind of the celebrity in the house. So he goes to Brent and he's like, look, if you don't do this, I'm voting you. Brent kind of starts to scramble. I think he maybe tried to kind of campaign, but knew maybe wouldn't work. So Brent ends up voting for Katie because he knew his vote would probably get revealed to Josh, which is what happened. Mm-hmm. Josh sees that, okay, Brent at least kept his word to me. He didn't vote me out. He voted for Katie. So he doesn't drag Brent into the battle for to stay, essentially.
Yeah. And so then he had a choice. He could choose to bring Katie into the competition or choose to bring Jay West into the competition. Jay West was threatening the man, letting him know that you could bring me in, but it's going to be a disaster. That's not a quote. That's just me caricaturizing him. He was just saying like, oh, if you bring me in, I'm going to mollywop you. You can't handle this. You don't want this. Go ahead, take the easy route. And so Josh was going to take Katie. That seemed to be his plan. Katie
elected Katie at first. He's like, all right, Katie, I'll take you. But freaking Jay West could not shut up. like, stop talking.
It was such bravado. It's just, I don't know. I feel like as a dude, as a man, you can smell it out sometimes. You could sniff it out. And I think Josh, not that Josh is like an alpha male, but I think he sniffed it out. He's like,
Oh, yeah.
he ain't it. This is bark, 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 bark. There's no bite behind this. And so he pivoted. He was like, I was going to take Katie. He said, I was going to take Katie, but you're talking all that trash, Jay. You're talking all that trash. And so he brought him in. And it was Josh versus Jay West.
And then Jay West, after when Josh was like, all right, like, you got a lot to say. You want to battle me? Come on in. Jay West is like, oh, well, I mean, do you want to do that? Like, sure, like that's what you want to do. I'm like, oh, don't backtrack now.
like those like website confirmations, like you check them out. Are you sure you agree to the? No, yeah, I agree. We're gonna fight.
We're sure. You walk yourself into the elimination and let's battle.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool to see. So the competition, the battle competition, is putting together a puzzle.
Yes.
And it's like a puzzle of the symbol, like emblem of Sequester this season, which is kind of like a weird Voltron Transformer sort of face. I don't know what
Robot
it is.
mask thing. Yeah.
Kind of cool. So they're putting that together. And in the beginning, Jay West is kind of like, yeah, blah, 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 whatever he's saying.
In the beginning, mind you, he has like 2 blocks up. This fool's already acting like he's one when he has. It's a multi-piece puzzle. It's not like the one like Caitlyn failed to put together. Not like some like pre-made 3-piece puzzle. This is a fairly sophisticated puzzle. I think also the other side of it was like the same thing but reversed. So you could easily, if you got the wrong side, you would end up like very easy to mistake. It was tough, and he had like 3 pieces in. He's like, oh, I'm the man. Anyway.
To be fair, they both were at some point. They both kind of started trash talking each other a little bit, which is super fun to watch. Like I feel like you don't always see that in shows like Survivor and Big Brother because people, you know, do like a good sport kind of thing.
Yeah,
but I enjoyed it. I was like, yeah, trash talking each other.
Yeah, it was kind of cool, and it was nice to see. I don't know. I felt like we got a very clear view of the competition. I feel like with Survivor, sometimes Big Brother, there's so much editing. You're cutting to confessionals and you're cutting back, and there's multiple people competing that you don't always feel like you're actually seeing the competition play out. You feel like you're seeing it, and then it jumps back to some other part. And then sometimes if you watch Big Brother comps closely, you'll see like it'll regress. Like somebody will be back earlier in the puzzle, and then it'll cut forward. It's all chopped together. This one felt very smooth. I felt like I was watching the progression of events. And in the end, there was a moment where Jay West was in the lead, kind of barely, talking all that mess. And the end, Josh came back, put it together, smashed him, and that was a wrap.
Wow, it was a wrap. Like, when I tell you, I cackled so hard. The way called out Jay West was like, okay, you want to be a big dog? Like, come play in the pound. And then at the end, he wins? Like, he crushes him? Oh, yo, I actually just couldn't.
I was not expecting that from Josh. I don't know where Josh is from or who he reps, but I was very surprised by his conduct. He really stepped up. He handled his business. And yeah, I mean, you texted me. You're like, he's about to walk back to the house like a big dog, like getting in people's faces. And like, he has the right. He just called another man out and beat him. So kudos to Josh.
I think Josh could come back in the house and be in a good position. Because here's the thing with Josh. He came in, I think, having the least connection. Actually having 0 connections. He doesn't know one person coming to this house. He doesn't have any sort of background or resume that could be impressive. But I think what he did in the first episode was he started to build personal connections. Like, he was really big on that. So you started seeing people say, I know we originally said we should target Josh, but I kind of like him. And people are like, yeah, I kind of like him too. So and the cool thing about this was the rest of the people who were in safety, they all got to see this. So they're seeing Josh like completely demolish Jay West's competition. I think Josh can come back in the house and have safety for a little bit of time, whether that's like a day or two, because even though he's like a small guy, he's clearly capable. So I think he could come back into the house in a good position.
Yes. So predictions. So you're going to have to brief everyone, and by everyone I mean me, on the final episode. Is it final 3, final 2, final 4? How does it work? And what are we predicting?
Okay. So the way, unless there's twists, the way the final works is that the final episode starts with final 4 people. All right. They all sit at a table and they all just make their case for why they should win the game. Right.
Okay.
Why they should win the game and who they would drag out of the game with them if they don't win. So here's how it works. So you have the final 4. They all pick one person to exit the game, like one person to kick out of the game. That person drags one person out of the game with them, leaving the final two.
Okay.
So it kind of becomes the four people sitting at the table, they all make their case for like essentially why they're not a floater, why they deserve it, why they work so hard, like da da da. And then I also kind of say like, if you guys, you know, if you vote me out, like I'm dragging this person. Usually they try to drag like the weakest person, kind of, I think. It depends.
Yeah.
And so, and then the weakest person says they're going to drag the strongest person. And so that's kind of essentially what it's going to be.
Okay. So based on that, give me your final two then. Who do you think is going to make it?
I really like, so I think one of the, from what I've seen in Sequester, it's not always the strongest player that makes it to the end because they're going to get challenged and they're going to get battled.
Exactly.
And it has to be somebody that can win a challenge because I don't think anybody has made it to the final without having to win a challenge. So that said, I think my final two is going to be Luna.
Oh.
And I kind of want to say Jacob.
Are you going to?
They're my favorites right now. I'm just going to go with them. I'm going to say Luna and Jacob. I'm not really exactly sure how it's going to happen. I do think that neither of them would drag the other person out. So that's at least a good thing. Yeah. And I don't think either of them would be dragged out by somebody if they can get to the four, because I think they both are just really fun people that everyone in the house seems to like so far.
Yeah.
So they're my favorite. I don't necessarily know how great chances, but look, that's my pick.
Okay. We have one in common. I think we're going to see, honestly, this week, if you had asked me before the season, obviously I didn't know the game, but if you'd asked me just from seeing the house guys, I would never have said this, but I think Josh is going to be in the final two. The way he was willing to take on the tougher, not the perceived tougher challenge, right? Katie might have been better at puzzles, but at least like he was not willing to back down. And the fact that he came in looking for the idol shows that he's hungry. Like,
yeah.
And then still managed to establish social connections after that, genuine social connections, right? I think he's positioned himself well. I think he took the prison mentality, like walk into the yard, find the biggest dog or biggest prisoner and hit him in the mouth. That's it. Like he could have picked on the small dude in the corner. He said, nope, I'm going after the big guy, and he did it. So I think Josh will be there. And I like Muna. I think Muna is already so tapped in socially that it'll be hard to take her out. If she goes to exile, she's going to have people voting on her side. And I think if it gets to any sort of Final Four situation, some of her allies will be there and they'll be reluctant to pull her out. So I think she's very, very, has a lot of social capital that'll pay well for her. Yeah.
Oh, I'm excited. You're right. I think Josh is a good pick. He's my honorable mention. I wouldn't be surprised to see him in the final two.
Yeah.
So.
I would like Shireen. I would like her to be in the final two. I think she's just cool. I just think she's dope. So we'll see. I do think though that it'll probably be tougher for her to win competition, similar with Brett. I mean, not that age limits any of your faculties. They're not that old, but hey, 20-year-olds are sharp, man. They're quick, they're sharp, their brains are fresh. I'm not 20 anymore. I can say that for a fact. So like, I think it'll be tough for her and Brent if they get called out at any point. And I don't think they have there's a cabal of some of the younger people of Muna and Jacob that they really know each other. They really back each other. So
yeah. And speaking of, can we mention Jacob and like the freaking 180 he did when he was saying like Muna, like, she, like, we have such this connection. It's so great to see her. And then he goes in his confessional and he's like, yes, like, I'm so excited to be here. But I have to say, like, my number one person, ride or die, is Marcella. We're like,
yeah.
That was kind of see that like he has essentially two ride or dies, or like two people that think he's their ride or die. And I don't know. I think he's in a very good position. So.
I think he'll go far for sure. Yeah. All right.
That's what we got.
That's it. Sequester will be premiering. What? Oh, what's up?
We forgot to tell them.
Tell them what?
You guys got to smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, drop a comment below, and let us know.
There it is. Sequester will be playing again as if it's a movie. It will be on Sunday. This Sunday again. What time do you know?
6 p.m.
6 p.m. Check it out. And if you don't check it out, that's okay. Well, it's not okay. Go watch it. But if you don't, it's okay because we'll be here to recap it for you. That's it.
Yep. Yeah,
that's real talk.
Real siblings. See you next time.